Good morning, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Talk About It with Sam, where we discuss today's current events, life, health, wealth, and lifestyle. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more content. We have so much more to come. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the next episode of Talk About It with Sam. Today, I am going to be interviewing Monty Dale, who is an engineer based out of Framingham, Mass. Hi, Monty. How are you?
Good. How are you, Sam?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks so much for coming on today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, Monty, if you don't mind, would you please go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a professional mixing and mastering engineer. I've been mixing and mastering music for about 17 years professionally. And a lot of people say, what does professionally mean? Well, that means I do it for money, right? So before that, I was doing engineering. I have a degree in electrical engineering from the University of Miami. I graduated in 2003. And moved up to Massachusetts after that. And it was a hobby for a long, long time. So for, majority of that time, I'd say it was me doing as a part-time thing. And I worked in corporate jobs. I was director for customer service for a number of corporations, actually. Bose is one of them. Rue La La was another. And Easy Cater was another. So, United Site Services, I managed 1-800 toilets for a little while. So, I've had some of the corporate world experience as well. But this was always a passion to mix and master music. I've never really been an artist, and I think that does give me an advantage because I can allow the artist to be an artist and I can just be the engineer and take care of that part of it. But over I've been in the current space I've been in for about 14 years. And and right now at the moment, probably in the next 2 weeks, I'll cross 90 million streams on my mixes in the world. And I currently have about 830 professional credits. And it's funny, I use a platform called Muso.ai that allows me to track my credits and to fix them when they're not correct, because it's amazing how often music comes out and an engineer is not credited properly. So I'm definitely very passionate about making sure people get the credit where it's due and that you can track it. And Muso.ai is actually a great platform for that. But yeah, I love music, and I'm one of the few and fortunate people that actually get to do something they really, truly love for a living. It's a crazy idea to actually go to work every day and like what you do, and not a lot of people have that, are fortunate enough to do that, but I am. So very blessed in that way.
That's amazing. Wow, Monty, you're a big deal.
I don't like to think that I honestly, I enjoy what I do, and that's the best part about it. I think that, a long time ago, I set a goal for myself to do this. It's more of like a matter of passion and energy and time and dedication to something that creates something that I've you don't just fall into this spot. It doesn't happen that way. It takes time. What I like to say a lot is preparation is the mother of success. If you want to be successful, you have to prep to be successful. It doesn't just happen. Doesn't work that way. There is no easy button, and it's still difficult. There's still challenges in doing this, because right now I don't have employees. Like, I'm a one-man show at the moment. In the new year, that's a part of my business that I'm going to look into. I'm going to look into hiring people potentially. I'm going to look into expanding and utilizing the space I've created in different ways. And it takes a certain level of risk tolerance to do that, but yeah, it's fun.
Absolutely. Wow, I love that. And I love that for you so much, because I think that you hit it spot on. Like, the fact that you love your craft means that you get to really enjoy and love your life. Like, you don't have to go home with those crazy stressors. And it's like, everybody has hard days, even when you love things, but at least you get to go home at the end of the day, when you do what you love, and you get to really just enjoy that. So I'm really happy for you.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. What made you get into the industry in the first place? Did you have any musicians in your family, or?
That's a good question. So when I was growing up, I think I got my first snare drum at the age of 7. And after that, I fell in love. I grew up in the 90s when Nirvana was coming out and all of that. And then I got into bands and started to play drums and was really into music. And at that time in my life during high school is where I really fell in love with music and fell in love with this idea. And then you get into a band and you create songs and music and you start to ask yourself, so how do I record myself? How do I do this? So then you start to play around with it. You start to buy equipment or go to studios and record, demos, and you start to play around with it. And I was in a band and we were doing that. And I said, and then when you start to ask yourself the question, what do you want to do with your life? Because at a time in high school where it comes around, everyone gets it. You go and you say, oh, so what do I want to do with my life? You're like, oh, wow, I have to pick that now. Oh, wow. And I have to go to college. I have to pay money. Okay. It's a big deal. So I said, I wanted to get into audio engineering. And at the time, I said to myself, I'd like to do audio engineering, but I also want to make sure that my degree has a lot of weight. So I didn't just get a degree in audio engineering. Like I didn't go to Full Sail or any of these places, which are all great schools. I actually went more traditional, like actual engineering route. I have a degree in electrical engineering, specialization in audio from the University of Miami, and it's an actual BSEE. And so I went in the engineering route, which is way more technical. I learned computer programming and electromagnetic field theory, and I did every mathematics there is, and did that and had that experience because I really wanted to make sure that it wasn't just the like the audio and the actual fun part of this is an aspect of it, but I wanted to make sure I could be successful. And I really wasn't sure at the time what it was going to take to do that. But I figured that having a degree like that was going to set me up for success better. So that's kind of what got me into it, playing in bands and playing music. And then when you start to record your own music, you start to compare it naturally. You say, wow, listen to how, you listen to your band recorded practice. You compare it to what's on the radio and you're like, how do I get there? Like, how do I do that? So then, you start to try to figure out how to do that. And in that process, I fell in love with the process, with the way in which someone chases that. And so I started to chase it. So I started to actually go out and figure out, how do I do this? And over a long, long time, you start to realize that it's complex. The answer to that question is not an easy one. There is no template or some shortcut that someone created out there to just hit the button and all of a sudden you sound like that. It just does not work that way. And I think in this day and age, you would like to think that it is that way, and it's really not. So, and there's a lot of people trying to sell you on this idea that you can just get it. And what you start to realize, and this is really, really important. I actually created a podcast myself. I started a podcast a little while ago and have like 2 episodes out. But in my first podcast episode, I talk about the idea that you're basically limited by your own idea of what great sounds like. And when you're first starting out as an engineer and anyone listening to music, you have an idea of what a great song sounds like. And you can learn what great sounds like the same way you can learn what a good song sounds like, or you can learn what something that's not so good sounds like, and you can start to think that that's great. And because it's a matter of how you interpret that. So, what I started to realize was the only thing that audio engineers are paid for, the top engineers in the world, they're paid for their opinion. They're paid for their opinion of what great sounds like. That's why you hired them. And you can have all the gear in the world. You can have the best studio gear in the world. If you have no idea what great sounds like, and you can't get there. And you start to realize there's a marriage of like this knowledge of audio engineering. That's a necessity. That's kind of like your vehicle. And then there's this this idea of what great sounds like, and you're trying, and the whole goal is to have your idea of what great sounds like be as close to the world's idea of great as possible. And that's the only reason why stats like the 90 million plays matter, is it gives you an idea that my idea of what great sounds like is actually very close to what the world's idea of great is. So
Wow.
when you're thinking about it, that's really audio engineering is like the engineering side is like the technical side of it that you have to know to get there. That's like the baseline. Then there's this creative side that's really fun. And that's that's the part that I really love about what I do, is I get a song that a producer or, an artist has created, and I get to help it to really move the speaker in a way that helps the listener to fall in love with it. Because there's this emotional attachment that comes with a great song. Like if you have a song that you love in your life, there's something about it, sonically, lyrically, that helps the person feel a certain way to fall in love with that song. And my whole goal as an audio engineer is to help someone's music do that. Help them find who, and so when I listen to a song, I say to myself, okay, who's the person who's going to fall in love with this? What do they want from it? How do I help this song really have the emotion that's trying to be conveyed as well, as good as possible? Have the mix do that, have the lyrics do that, have the feeling of the song do that. And that's what helps the song really go out in the world and be successful. And a lot of people underestimate, I think, what a good engineering and good mixing and mastering can do. What they'll do is they'll put a song out, and they'll do everything themselves, and they'll think that they have like 10,000 plays or 15,000 plays. They'll have, a little bit of they'll think, oh my gosh, I got a little bit of success from this. And they'll think that that's it. The reality, though, is maybe if it was engineered better, maybe you would have done double that or triple that. And right. Because a person's more apt to listen to a song more often if it sounds good. It's really a simple concept. So that's why, I think it matters a lot. And you have a lot of people in the world that are trying to do this and be jack of all trades, master of none. And I decided never to do that. That's why I'm not an artist. That's why I don't put out music myself, because I decided to specialize, and I let the artist be the artist. I think it's very important that when you're making music and you want to be, and of course you want to be successful making music, that you find people that do what they do and are the very best of what they do and play their roles. And then of course that way, every person that you have in your team is the very best of what they do, and they play their role and they know their role very well. If you do that, you have a much higher rate of success. Like there's a much larger chance that you'll be successful doing this. And if you look at the top 100 songs in the world at all times, and you just click on show credits, you'll notice there's writers, there's a ton of people on that list. And that's because they went and they found the best people that do what they do, and they teamed up with them and they built that. So I think that's a really important message, that for anybody who wants to make music, a lot of people think they're saving money by not hiring someone like me. And that might be true in the moment, but it might be at the cost of your career.
Wow. That was deep.
Okay. So that's why you have to say to yourself, if you really want to be successful doing this, there's a certain amount of investment so that it takes to get your music to a place, just like any business. Like I invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into my recording studio so that I can have one client walk in the door and actually get a great experience. And 20 years of doing it and all this work and time, that's the investment in time and energy and money it takes for me to do it. And I think that the newer generation, it's like everyone's trying to find the easy button, and it's really not there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I find myself struggling with that today. Also, I have a 13-year-old son, and I think 13 is kind of like a tough age anyway. But the kids, I think that you're right as far as like the young generations really just not understanding like the amount of time and work that goes into making something really successful.
Right.
And
yep. And
again,
there can be two thoughts. And the one thing I'll share on that is you can think about your money in two different ways, short term or long term. Okay. You think about your money short term, you think to yourself, how do I save money today? Right? How do I not spend the money to go to a studio? How do I not spend all this? And how do I do everything myself? Okay. But you're sacrificing the long term money by doing that. If you think long term, you start to think, okay, so how do I build an approach to be successful 5 years from now? How do I set reasonable goals? How do I obtain that? And then you start to realize, okay, maybe it is special. Maybe it isn't just, maybe I do need to spend a little more money now, spend a little more money on promotion and marketing, a little more money and going to the studio to build the product to be as good as it can so it can get out there and really gravitate and build your career.
Right.
And I think it's you can see a lot of very famous people that have made it in the music world talk about it took 10 or more years of being an artist, of grinding, of investment and doing the hard work to start to make any money. It's
right.
Just, and it's not, the grind isn't for everyone, this isn't, it's just not.
So for anyone that's watching or any of the viewers that don't truly understand what engineering is, can you please explain what it is and why it's so important to music?
Sure. So engineering is everything that exists between a song being an idea in your head and it being played on the radio. So if you have a song idea and you have a concept, you sit at a piano and you play the music, or you sit on a drum set and you play in a band and you guys are all playing the music. You have a song idea. Audio engineering is really the majority of what it takes technically to get it from a simple concept in your head to actually being a song that you hear on any medium or device of any sort. And there's a lot that falls into that category. And I think that, there's production, there's recording, there's mixing, there's mastering. There's a lot of different steps within the process, but there's an engineering aspect that's kind of woven into the fabric of all of those roles, each of which are really important, I think, to ensuring the best outcome.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
That was great. That was a really good description. And so for my next question, how do you keep a healthy balance between working with so many artists and your personal life?
That's a great question. I'd say you have to really prioritize what's important to you. And you have to, and it's all about time management. It's really a matter of saying to yourself when you wake up in the day, like, what are you going to do? And making a list and saying, and what really matters and prioritizing the things that matter. And I think throughout my life, there's been times where I haven't done a great job of this, and certain things sacrifice as a result of that. I would say in my life right now, friendships are what sacrifice, definitely, because I have a great relationship with my fiance. I have a great life with my children. I have a great working experience. I'm doing the client thing and I'm trying to acquire, and I'm running a business that's on my own. I'm trying to expand that, but that leaves very little time for something. And that usually for me, that's cultivating friendships and trying to maintain those things. Right. So you have to kind of decide what matters to you, because it's very difficult to be successful in one thing and not have something else be sacrificed. It's very hard,
Absolutely.
And you have to be really careful to make sure that, you're purposeful in what you are sacrificing.
I love that.
Because a lot of people will start to go after something. They really want this idea and they'll only do it halfway, because they'll start to realize halfway through it, wait a second, I'm sacrificing something I don't want to sacrifice. And you kind of have to, so you backpedal, and therefore you never really make it with anything, because you're stuck in this cycle where you're trying to do too much and you haven't decided what really matters to you. You haven't prioritized what you wanted, what is going to make you successful and the pathway to getting there.
Absolutely.
So,
That was beautifully said. A lot of kind of like what I promote and teach is healthy balances, because I find myself that whenever I get clients, so they come to me, a lot of it is chaos and how do I figure out time management and how do I incorporate this into my life without sacrificing this. So I love that you just said that, because that you can't. You, like you said, you have to make a decision and then you have to stick with it.
yep,
So a lot of my spiel anytime I sign clients on is all about commitment and accountability. My
yep,
job is to make sure that for you to want to agree to this commitment, and then for me to hold you accountable. But you have to
right,
plan on that. Like, once you make the
right,
commitment to that sacrifice, you have to understand that it's long term. So that was
yep.
spot on. That was great. So for our next question, do you think that working in this industry and doing something that you truly love
Mhm.
is helpful to your mental health, or do you have other escapes? Do you go to therapy? Do you work out? How do
Good
you
question.
balance that?
Good question. So yes, it's definitely escape. When I have a great song that I'm mixing, that I'm like, when I enjoy the music I'm mixing, it's kind of fun. There's this aspect that's just, and the other thing it's nice is, when you're good at something and you're
Yeah.
rewarded for it, right? That feels good. So I think that mentally, definitely. But I think there are other things, like you can't just do that. Right? Can't just all be about work. There's just no way. Like, so, I think, um, so yes, I think I exercise regularly. My fiance is a runner, so
I
she's
love
always
that
at the
part.
gym. Yeah. And I have a long commute to work, but I think I'm always trying to learn more. I think the most important thing is you need to always be hungry to learn more. And you have to approach things from a humble position, from a position of where you really don't know everything, where there is always more to learn. And um, cultivate relationships. The only reason why I'm successful, or I have some measure of success in my life, in my career, in my home life, is because I spent time on relationships and I developed them. And that takes character, it takes follow through, it takes preparation, it takes, being true to your word, delivering. So that way people have this trust that when they work with you, it's going to be delivered all the time, no matter what. That means, and that says something, because if it's only half the time, you're going to lose relationships. Things in your life are never going to be working out the way it should. So I think it starts with being true to yourself and being honest and accountable to yourself to say, when I make a commitment, I'm going to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Absolutely
that
agree.
is a really critical piece. Like, success doesn't come without that. Or you might feel like you're being successful for a little period of time, but then it's going to change or fall and vary, and you're going to have this roller coaster of a life, and I just don't. At my age, I just feel like I don't have time for that. I just want, to have a more stable situation. I think stability comes from preparation and making sure that you deliver on your word, and it matters, and cultivating those relationships over time lead you to success. And I think that's the reason why I'm in the spot I'm in.
Yeah, again, that was beautifully said. And, just to touch on that. So a big motto of mine, which I use for myself also, is always be teachable, always be coachable.
Yes. Yes.
No matter what I gain in my life, or no matter how much knowledge I have, or what degrees, I carry under my belt, I will always be teachable. I will always be coachable, because I want to learn new things
Yeah.
also all the time.
Right.
And the way
And the
that I look at it.
coachability part is something that a lot of people struggle with, they let their ego get involved, or they
Yeah.
let other things just hold them back. And and that's understandable to some degree, but over time you start to realize that you're holding yourself back from being successful, because you really, growth is what's necessary. If you already know everything, there's no room for growth. So, and that's, you know,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we live in a time where sometimes it can be hard, because, like as a coach, when you go to a coach and they tell you, you have to take a hard look in the mirror and you have to change these things and you have to have a different perspective. A lot of people don't want to do that. Like you said, like they're so in their ego that they're not willing to listen to that. But I think once you let that down and you're able to kind of absorb these new things, you understand just like, wow, all the knowledge that you're getting and the things that you have now, like the resources that you can teach other people, which is great.
right.
Excellent. So For our next question, let's see. Oh, frequency and sound. So frequency and sound is a part of life. You mix these sounds to create the perfect melodies that people vibe to. How do you feel when an artist is super excited about the work that you've created?
It's very fulfilling. I mean, I think that's the goal, right? For me, like, part of the reason why I do this, part of the reason I love it is I can look and I can see my music moving the world in some way. Right now my mixes in the world do about 500,000 streams a week.
Wow.
And yeah, and it's neat to know that your music is going out there. And there was a track I did that for an artist that was on a billboard in Times Square recently. And I know there's literally like, and it came out in like August and it's already done 5 million plays almost.
It's amazing.
And you look at it and you're like, and you can just go and you can go like to the music video on YouTube and there's 6,400 comments and all the comments are, oh my God, I love this song. This is amazing. And I'm like, that's why, and to me, it feels really good. I don't have to be the person. Like, I don't have to be her. I don't need that. In my opinion, I just know that I mixed and mastered that song. It sounds and is moving those listeners because of what I did. Because actually what they're listening to, I created along with, of course, the producer and the team that he's working with. Because I will tell you, I mean, that, producers having, that's amazing. Because I work with some producers that are just amazing, really, really good. And their ability to create music, and great music that moves the world in a way like that is just awe-inspiring. So I'm fortunate enough to work with some people that are really talented, and but it's fun to be a part of that process and to see your music that you've mixed and mastered go into the world and help people and brighten someone's day and be fun to listen to. And I think that's really part of the joy I get in doing it. Part of it, definitely, and that's always the goal, because I want to make music that people listen to and go, wow. And there's a part of it that I want people to, other artists to hear and go, wow, who did that? That's how I grow. That's how my business improves, is if I mix something that, someone else listens to and goes, wow, I really like the way that sounded. I get more business from that too. And that's part of what's allowed me to create this business I've been doing well in for more than 15 years is that mindset. I think that's probably one of the most fun parts about what I do.
It's great. So are you willing to do a little name dropping? Are you willing to tell us? So some of what are the top artists that you've worked with?
Sure. So the track I did this year, there's a track, her name is Jenna Davis. The track is called DiCaprio. She was the voice of Megan in that movie, Megan. And amazing song, just, great voice, really, really cool, catchy tune. And it's definitely doing some serious numbers. And it was a pleasure to work on. It was a really fun one. It was produced by Ross Copperman, Walker Hayes, and I can't forget. Hold on a second there. She's huge, so that's why I can't forget. 1 second here. Because it's really, really, it's amazing. It's one of those songs that you're like, I can't even believe I got a chance to work on this. But yeah, so Walker Hayes and Kelsey Ballerini are the writers of the song. Yeah, so just incredible, production, and it's really fun to work on something like that. I did another song this year for an artist. His name is Tennille Arts. And that track's called Summer Don't Go. So I do some country music, which is kind of neat. And I do work on a lot of hip hop locally as well. Like I did all of Cube Ref's, his tracks. I worked on DNA's track. DNA and I had a song, I had a track that had 35 artists on one song.
Wow.
So each one has 8 bars. And there's literally he created a music video for it. And every 8 bars, the entire scene changes. So it's like 12 and a half minutes, but it's like 35 music videos in one. It's so something like that, it's fun to create music. So I work locally with people that are talented like that. I work with some larger The producer I work with, his name is Ross Copperman. He's an artist himself, makes some amazing music. I mixed 8 songs for him last year. And I met him through my good friend Alex Mendoza. Alex Mendoza produced and wrote the track Trampoline from Shade. Did like 1 billion plays in 2020, 2021, I think. And I met him probably about 15 years ago. He was one of the producers of a group called the Dean's List. And I work with them. I actually mixed and mastered a record back in 2012, and I'll never forget the day. This is the first day that something really major happened to me. It was April 3rd, 2012. I came into work. I worked for Bose at the time. I came into work. I looked at iTunes, and the record I mixed and mastered was number 3 in the world for sales. In the entire world on iTunes. And this is before streaming. So this is when you had the top 10 and the iTunes. Yep. You go in the store and you see those. Yeah. And albums, it was number 3. And I was like,
that's what? Amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool. And we had tracks on MTV, and so it was neat to see your music that you mixed and mastered go out in the world and do that, and it's not my music, of course, it's theirs, but I want to say I was a part of that team that did that. And it was really, really cool, to be a part of something like that. And so very talented people, Alex is amazing. So I still work with him today, mixing things. So, and that's what I mean by cultivating relationships, because I think a lot of my success comes from having built strong working relationships. And in turn, those created other, I found myself connected to other people, and I'm creating a relationship with them, and then working with them. And it just grows that way. And I think it's really important, if you don't take the work and the time to deliver, to cultivate those relationships, to really push yourself, to make, to push your own quality to that level, to really, really try, it's difficult to achieve that level of success, because, if you don't deliver every time, if you're only delivering half the time, they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to use someone else. It just won't work out. And so I think that's a huge reason why I'm where I'm at.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's, of course, and you need to have a team. There's no I in team. You can't be a one-man show. Nope. So that's right. Beautiful.
And you have to let the producer do his job. I mix and master music, and a lot of times, there's this delicate line in what I do where some artists think that there's a production aspect that the mixing should be doing or not be doing, so it's knowing who you're working with to some degree and what they want. And that relationship and that dialogue takes time to generate, because there's some people I work with where they want me to do a lot of production work, not just mixing and mastering. But if I went and I did that to a song from Ross, I wouldn't get the mix. It wouldn't happen. Right. So I know that. So it's a matter of knowing your role and when you need to play it, and what role you play is really critical to being very good at doing what I do, at least, audio engineering and mixing and mastering music. It's understanding what role you play and finding the people that play their role extremely well. And you work as a team to really have it with a shared goal of creating something that's going to move the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell me, where do you see yourself in your career 5 years from now?
That's a good question. I think I see me training other engineers to do what I do a bit more. I see I have the goal of winning a CMA, of winning a Grammy. That's a goal I have. Ross has won 5 CMAs.
Amazing.
So I think it's only a matter of time. If you're working with people that are on that level, it's only a matter of time, really.
Yeah.
So, and I think, so that's the thing. It's my drive is to try to find, artists that are passionate about making great quality music and see value. And, I invest into these relationships too, a lot of times, especially early on, because I think there's a lot of, there's acquiring new clients for me is something that's very costly. So like you either have to advertise or you have to build a relationship over 15 years and get introduced to someone. It took that long, it took that much experience and that much time and that much energy to find someone like that. It takes that to get there
Yeah.
sometimes, so I realized investing into a relationship and investing in my time, my energy, my skill into something, it takes time to pay back, but it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was beautiful. If you had to give the youth any advice on the music industry or like up and coming artists that were looking to get into the music industry, regardless whether if it was engineering, producing, if they wanted to be an actual artist, what would you give them for advice?
So the first thing I would say is decide what it is you want to do. And this is really important because you have to decide what role you want to play. Do you want to be an engineer? Do you want to be an artist? Do you want to be a producer? Do you want to write music? Yeah, and then get very good at that. Mm-hmm. And find people that do the other things that are also very good at what they do. So I think that is really the most important thing. There's a lot of people that waste a lot of time and energy trying to do everything. And what happens is you sacrifice what gets sacrificed, unfortunately, is the music, is what they put out. And therefore they never get a chance to see their true potential. And I think that and I think a lot of people want to save the money to go to the studio. They save the money to have it mixed and mastered properly. They save that money and they think, oh, I'm saving myself money. But the cost that it comes at is your career is literally like 5 years from now, you are not where you want to be because there's other music out there that are getting mixed and mastered by people that are very good at what they do, that sounds better, it gravitates more. And don't think just because you've had a few plays and something can't be better. I think that's, I think if it did sound better, it would have more plays. And that's just how anything is like that. And I think, so it's really important to hold yourself to a high level, a high standard, and compare yourself with the best music in the world and develop your opinion of what great sounds like, because that at the end of the day is what's limiting you. It's what's limiting your success. And especially in music, because you can have an opinion about it, but then, and it's kind of like with food, for instance. If you ate fast food your whole life and you then went to, something that's just above fast food, like Red Lobster, or like some of these places, you'd be like, wow, this is much better. All the meanwhile, there are places like Capitol Grill that exist that are even beyond that. And you don't know what it's like until you experience it. Music is like that. When you're making your own music at first, you think everything's the next best thing. But you need to compare yourself with what is really huge out there in your genre. Because everything, mixing and mastering wise is very genre specific. Like the way I mix a country track is very different than the way I'd mix a hip hop track. And I think it's important to understand those things. But educating yourself, learning the basics, and really having an understanding of what production is, of what mixing is, of what mastering is, of all these different roles, even as an artist, is really, really important. This can help you become more well-rounded. It can help push your music to the next level. And I think that, so making sure you're not just focused on myopically on one thing, but really trying to educate yourself on everything and trying to be the very best you can be at the thing that you're really trying to do. Because again, it all comes down to having a goal and having, an idea and defining for yourself what success is. Because you can see it. You can see people out there that are super successful, and you can tell that they're probably not very happy because maybe their idea of what success is higher. And that's okay. You just have to make sure that that's measurable and that's attainable. Because otherwise, you're just never happy.
Right.
Wow.
And that was great. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody is interested or if they hear this and they want to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to do that?
Sure. So you can email me, monty@mixedbymonty.com. Is a great way to get in touch. I have my website for the recording studio is graybeardrecordingstudios.com. Graybeard spelled with an A, GrayBeard. I also make instrumentals. I have a beat store online. It's graybeardbeats.com. Yeah, and you can always reach out, Graybeard Recording Studios on Instagram and on Facebook as well. And yeah, and if you you're interested in learning what your music could sound like, a lot of times what most people don't realize is if someone reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm interested in having my song mixed or mastered, I might do the first one for free just to even show you. The reason being is, again, it's like food. If you don't know how good it could sound, how would you ever know you need it? A lot of times I'd be willing to show someone what's possible, because every single time I've ever done that, they become a client because they start to realize they see the value in what I can bring. And then all of a sudden it's valuable, because you don't know its value until you know you need it.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Amen to that.
Yeah. So I think that's important. So I'm willing to invest in my own time, resources, and money into relationships to develop them, because I also like to live by the idea that you just never know who you're in the room with. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Hugh Breff sells out TD Garden 10 years from now, and I'm the guy who mixes and masters music, and I'm big because he did that. I don't know that. And I think you really have to approach relationships like that, because you just never know. Absolutely. And the measure of success I have right now is because I've handled my relationships like that.
Wow, that was beautiful. I think that was such good advice. I appreciate you so much for taking this time out with me, Monty, and I really hope to collaborate with you at some point in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was a pleasure. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks so much, and have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.